Today, in this video, we are about to go on an incredible journey. We're going to witness 4.6 billion years of history in just a few minutes. Yes, you heard that absolutely right. We'll see how our Earth was born amidst boiling lava, raging fire, and violent collisions in space. After that, we'll travel to the era when dinosaurs ruled the planet, and then witness their terrifying end. But the story won't end there. We'll discover how tiny creatures eventually became the ancestors of humans, and how we spread from Africa to the entire world. If you enjoy watching research-based documentaries like this, then make sure to subscribe to our channel, because creating videos like these takes a huge amount of hard work and time. About 4.6 billion years ago, our very own Earth was nothing more than a burning ball of fire, a world with absolutely no sign of life. But within all that fire and destruction, a story was about to begin. A story so unbelievable that it would one day amaze the entire universe. A story filled with fear, mystery, and in the end, the rise of a creature that would take control of the whole world. For millions of years, the Earth kept burning like this. But then the skies began to change. A terrifying storm of rain started pouring down, slowly cooling the scorching surface of the planet. Centuries passed, and the rainfall continued for so long that deep and terrifying oceans were formed. But even then, breathing here was impossible, because the atmosphere was filled only with poisonous gases. Not even a single trace of oxygen existed. And then, deep within those toxic and dark oceans, a miracle happened. The very first forms of life began to appear, and tiny microscopic organisms started growing in the water. Among those small life forms, some began doing something that would change the face of Earth forever. They slowly started producing oxygen. It was as if Earth had taken its very first clean breath. The air slowly became clearer, plants began to grow, dense forests spread across the planet, and for the first time ever, the world started becoming habitable. Then, millions of years later, came the age when nature created its most terrifying creatures. Around 230 million years ago, small predators first stepped onto the Earth. In the beginning, they were tiny and fast, perhaps no bigger than a fox, but nature was preparing to play a very frightening game. Over millions of years, these creatures began growing into monstrous giants. Dinosaurs had now become the uncrowned rulers of the Earth, just like humans are today. Slowly, these once small creatures grew as massive as mountains, their enormous bodies towering toward the skies. During the Jurassic period, some dinosaurs shattered every limit of size imaginable. Imagine a creature that looked like a walking fortress, the Brachiosaurus, over 80 feet long and weighing more than 40 tons. And just when it seemed nothing could ever be bigger, another giant appeared, the Titanosaurus. It was so enormous that if it lay down across a field, an entire football ground could disappear beneath its body. When it walked, it felt as if the Earth itself was trembling. Trees shook with every step, and clouds of dust rose high into the sky. The empire of the dinosaurs had spread across the entire planet, from dense forests to towering mountains. They believed this world belonged only to them, and that their golden age would never end. But deep within the silent darkness of space, death was racing toward them. Around 65 million years ago, a gigantic asteroid, nearly 10 to 15 kilometers wide, came hurtling toward Earth at the terrifying speed of 70,000 kilometers per hour, so fast that everything could end in the blink of an eye. And then, near the coast of Mexico, the impact finally happened. The explosion was so powerful that everything within thousands of kilometers was instantly burned to ashes. The entire planet shook violently. Massive tsunami waves thousands of feet high rose from the oceans, while forests, mountains, and rivers were completely destroyed. The gigantic dinosaurs that had ruled the Earth only yesterday suddenly became helpless before this catastrophe from the sky. Darkness covered the planet, freezing cold consumed the Earth, and smoke and ash filled the atmosphere for months. Sunlight could no longer reach the surface. It was the most horrifying and tragic day in Earth's history. But what happened after this destruction was nothing short of a miracle. When the ashes finally cleared months later and sunlight once again touched the Earth, the world had completely changed. Those gigantic and deadly predators were gone forever. Nature's stage was empty, and within those burned forests, only a few small creatures had survived. The tiny mouse-like mammals that had spent millions of years hiding in fear of the dinosaurs were finally stepping into their time. Slowly, the climate improved, the cold faded away, and once again, the Earth became covered in green. In the dense forests of Africa, primates began to appear, the very creatures that would eventually become our ancestors. Around 25 million years ago, Africa's climate started to change. The forests slowly began disappearing, while vast grasslands spread across the land. The creatures that once lived in trees were now forced to come down to the ground in search of food, and that was where a revolutionary transformation began. Standing upright and walking on two legs, the very first step toward becoming human. Then time passed. Around 300,000 years ago, a unique species was born on the lands of East Africa, Homo sapiens, us humans. But remember one thing, back then, we were not alone. There were other human-like species as well, such as Homo erectus and Homo habilis. We were neither the strongest nor the fastest. We had no sharp claws and no lion-like teeth. In those early days, we had no permanent home. Life was nothing more than searching for food during the day and sitting beside the fire at night, trying to protect ourselves from wild animals and the freezing cold. Death waited at every step. The jungle had one brutal rule: a human alone meant certain death. Life survived on only one stubborn instinct: to stay alive at any cost. But we possessed one weapon unlike anything this planet had ever seen before: our brain. A brain that didn't just see the world, but could think, imagine, and plan ahead. Then came the moment often called the Great Explosion of human thinking. We learned how to communicate with one another, and language was born. Now, we no longer screamed only out of fear. We could clearly tell others where the danger was. Language changed everything. We began creating stories. Those imaginary stories connected thousands of strangers together. Just like today, people unite under the name of a flag or a god. We sharpened stones into weapons, crafted pointed spears from wood, and came up with ways to defeat death itself. And then we did something no other creature had ever managed to do. We crossed the borders of Africa and decided to explore the outside world. We reached the Middle East, and from there spread across Asia, Europe, and Australia. But that unknown world was not empty. In Europe, the powerful Neanderthals existed, while in Asia, the Denisovans ruled the land. For a long time, people believed that we fought bloody wars against them and wiped them out completely. But new research has changed everything. We didn't just fight them, we lived beside them. We built families with them. Even today, around 1 to 4% of Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA still exists within us. We did not erase them completely. They became part of our own blood, and we were still not ready to stop. We crossed raging rivers, climbed towering mountains, and conquered burning deserts. When we reached Europe, the land was covered in deadly ice, with temperatures falling as low as -20 degrees. But we adapted ourselves to survive. We wore animal skins and turned fire into our shield. Without any maps or GPS, we eventually reached everywhere from the Americas to the deep jungles of the Amazon. But nature was about to put us through its greatest test yet. Around 20,000 years ago, the Earth's temperature suddenly dropped so drastically that the oceans themselves began turning into ice. A white blanket covered the entire world, a time we now call the last ice age. We hid inside caves, small groups of 10 to 15 people, with no heaters and no permanent homes, fought against the brutal cold with nothing but the determination to survive. After thousands of years trapped in this frozen prison, the Earth finally changed once again around 11,000 years ago. The ice slowly began to melt, rivers were formed, and life once again found pathways across the land. Until then, we had spent our lives endlessly chasing animals for survival. But now, for the very first time, we decided to stay in one place. We discovered that planting a seed into the ground could grow food. Crops began swaying across the fields, and by turning animals into companions, we started building homes and settlements. This great transformation is what we now call the foundation of civilization. Now, for the first time, humans had free time to think. Some shaped wet clay into pots, while others discovered copper and melted it down to create stronger tools and weapons. The Stone Age slowly began to fade away. We learned how to weave clothes from cotton threads. Small villages gradually transformed into large and organized societies, where some became farmers, some blacksmiths, and others traders. Humanity realized that water was the real gold, and from there, the great river valley civilizations of history were born. In Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the world's first cities were built. They began writing for the very first time, kept records of trade, and created the world's earliest laws. Meanwhile, In the regions of present-day India and Pakistan, an astonishing civilization rose along the Indus River. Their streets were perfectly straight, their homes were built from solid brick, and beneath the ground existed advanced drainage systems. No giant weapons or signs of massive wars were found there. They seemed deeply focused on peace and trade, but as populations and responsibilities grew, society slowly divided into classes: farmers, craftsmen, traders, and above them emerged kings and priests. Kings ruled not only through strength, but through belief and stories. People began seeing the king as a messenger of the gods, or even a god himself, and from there began the age of taxes, armies, laws, and massive palaces. This journey of 4.6 billion years had begun with boiling lava. The helpless creature that once hid in fear at the slightest sound in the jungle had now become the builder of cities. We did not simply feed ourselves, we wrote our own destiny. And this journey proves that we were not born merely to survive. We were born to rule this world. Documentaries like this, then make sure to subscribe to our channel, because creating videos like these takes a huge amount of hard work and time.